In the city, loving life and trying to survive. But there's not enough time, and there's not enough wine in the world. Basically adulting. Basically adulting.
Hey friends, this is Erin Waddell.
And Luisa Diaz, and welcome back to Basically Adulting.
I almost forgot what I was going to say. Almost forgot my name. We're back on
Part two
with Megan, my sister, the one and only, the best sister that I've ever had.
In the world.
The best sister that I've ever had. So, I mean, she's pretty great. You're my only sister.
I haven't had better.
Oh my God.
Wow. Okay. Shots fired bright and early. But we decided that we're going to do a part two because there's just so much to talk about with her. You know, it's just, this show is about sitting down, having a glass of wine, or listening to us in your car and feeling like you're talking to one of your friends or just listening to one of your friends, I guess, and something that you can relate to. And I think that Megan really does have a story that can resonate and relate to a lot of people out there, and
Which is really sad, but...
Which is very sad, and I think that people sometimes...
So if you're a crier, just grab a tissue.
Grab your tissues.
Yeah. But I think that when things like this happen, and we'll talk about it in a second, but when things happen, people don't like to talk about it, and this will actually be the first time that you're talking about it openly, and so I just want to honor you and applaud you for that and being so brave and sharing with us, because I think that shows a lot about your character. And but so to go into that, we were talking about roommates on the previous episode, and
which was that roommate was after this situation happened.
So this was your first roommate in college.
Backtracking here.
Yeah. So this was your first roommate in college, and you went to SFA.
I did. So I went to SFA, and I started in the summer, and I had a completely different roommate. She was amazing. I still communicate with her, to this day. I love her so much.
She was so organized.
So organized. And
I'm not even kidding you. This girl and her mom literally had so many pillows. She had all these decorations already bought. It was just
it was already put up before we even walked in the room.
Yeah, it was just we had gone to lunch, and they had come in, and they were unpacking, and then when we came back, it was
boom. Yeah, done.
It was like they had a pop-up where they just opened it, and everything just flirted on the walls.
Wow. It was, she seems
loved
nice.
Her. Yeah.
Yes, I love her so much. And she was just a great friend, which is completely different from the next one.
But this roommate we're going to talk about.
She currently still is a great friend.
Yeah, I still talk to her to this day. The first one. So her and I were roommates during the summer semester when we were on campus. Then while we were there, I met someone else who I just our personalities were very similar, and me and the first roommate weren't very similar, but we got along really well. It worked well. So going into the fall semester, me and the girl that I met wanted to room, and I had knee surgery in between the summer semester and the fall semester. So I got this special room, and it was big, and it was cute and perfect.
For handicapped people.
Yeah. Hey,
because you're a gimpy.
I thought you meant You got like a really nice room. I didn't
No,
think
it
you
was
meant, like,
legit
the
a
handicap.
No, it was a
literally
handicap room.
I'm over here
room.
thinking like Megan got a suite. Nice.
I mean,
Basically-
it basically was a suite. And
I
they
had a
she had
bathtub.
a big shower.
I
they
had like a huge
You
bathroom.
had your own bathroom. Nice.
I mean, it's big enough, for wheelchairs to go through. So
Yeah,
like,
that's what the purpose.
walls are bigger.
The room is bigger
yeah.
and more. Yeah, so it was.
So it basically was a suite.
Yeah. And everything started off fine. And honestly, like almost right up until the end, it was perfectly fine. But we drank a lot, and I mean, we were in college, we were freshmen, we were just freedom. That's what we saw was freedom. So, but she had a friend from back home, and her and that friend together were just like, oh, bad decisions would always be made when they were together. And so, frat weekend, it was like frat rush weekend. Her friend had come up, and that Saturday there was like a bunch of parties and stuff like that. And we were like, let's go to all the parties. Like,
As
haven't
one
been.
would,
Yeah.
as a freshman, new to
So-
college, never been on her own before, like
Yeah.
as you would, as you were expected to be.
yeah.
You
And it
know?
wasn't like it was like a secret. Like I would tell my mom where I was going.
Yeah.
So, but we went and got a bunch of alcohol and had that in the dorm. And all of the guys from,
First of all, how do you get alcohol?
I don't even remember. I don't
Did
even
you guys
remember.
have like somebody that would go and
Like a fake ID or something?
I didn't have one. I don't know. I don't
Anyways,
remember.
it doesn't matter.
We got alcohol. And we started drinking in the dorm at like probably 11 o'clock in the morning. We were probably like 7 or 8 shots deep before we even left. And we got all ready.
Give us a timeline. So when did you leave? If you started drinking
Yeah.
at 11,
So,
give us a timeline.
so we went to brunch that morning. We came back to the dorm, and her friend went to Lamar in Beaumont. And so she knew all of the Lamar people and stuff like that. Well, for frat weekend, the Lamar Pikes, all of them came to SFA to help with recruitment. And so we went to brunch, and then we went back to the dorm. It was probably like 10, I guess. And we got ready, started drinking, and then we were like, well, how are we going to get to this party? And I think the party was like at 1 or something, because it was like a day party at the Pike House. And
So the Pikes from this other town came into Nacogdoches to do the boys' recruitment with them.
yes.
Okay.
Because I guess, I don't really know how that works. But yes, they
Okay.
all of them came up.
Okay.
And so, obviously, we're already kind of tipsy, drunk. And she, like, calls one of her friends. And she was like, well, I'll pay you if you come pick us up. So they came and they picked us up. And it was me, my roommate, and her friend. And there was probably, like, 5 guys in the car. And so then... And not to mention, I know none of these guys. My roommate probably knows like half of them. And because my roommate grew up in Beaumont.
Bless you.
No, it didn't happen.
Sorry. Luis is over there like
I'm going to sneeze.
frozen. Okay, sorry.
But my roommate grew up in Beaumont. So like a lot of people that went to Lamar, she kind of knew. And her friend knew all of the people in the car. So she takes us to the Pike House. And we continued drinking. And I just remember, like, it was so hot outside. They had no AC. It was like when you see on the movies, like, a frat house, like, busted up, beaten down, nasty couches, box fans everywhere, doors busted. Like, that is what it was. The yard full of beer cans. Like, that is what it was. And so...
It's basically just a place to have parties.
Exactly. And they didn't care what it looked like.
Yeah, no.
So it was like too hot to be outside, but it was really hot to be inside, and everyone's just kind of like crowded around the fan. So there was like the living room, and then there was like a front room. And I was so drunk. I have like videos, so like I remember things from my videos and my camera roll. But what I do remember is they have this thing called pike titties. And basically if you're a what is it, like a recruit
A pledge.
A pledge.
Yeah. If you're a pledge, you have to find a girl that'll let you write pike across their boobs and take a picture of it, and then they post it on an Instagram.
Like nude?
Yes. So my roommate did it, and I'm like, no, like, I'm not doing that. Like, I don't want to do that. Like, I don't know you people. Like, I'm just here to have fun.
Just here to drink your alcohol.
Yeah. But my roommate kind of did it, like, above her shirt, so she didn't have to, like, pull her shirt all the way down, but whatever. And then her friend did it, like, across her boobs, and, like,
oh my God.
Yeah, it was like, and I remember being they, like, shoved us in a laundry room. We were all, like, shoved in a laundry room.
Why?
Because I guess it's like I don't know. They don't want people
to know.
to know.
To, like, take the pictures or something?
To, like, do it. I don't know, but I don't really remember.
I mean, if
just
you think about half the things pledges do, like, they get so much shit for it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, I just remember being, like, in this laundry room it was me, my roommate, and her friend. There's probably, like, 3 or 4 guys in there, and they all had Sharpies. And I remember just, like, being in the corner, like, I'm not doing this. Like, I don't care what you say. I don't care. And then they ended up writing it, like almost by my collarbone, kind of. And they didn't take a picture because it wasn't technically, like,
it wouldn't have counted.
Yeah, it wouldn't have counted. But as soon as we walked out, like, I rubbed it off.
Yeah.
And then they got mad. And then I was like, you know what, like, screw this. Like, I don't want to be here anymore. So I went and sat in the front room, like, by myself, and I was drinking my whatever it was.
Probably a cranberry vodka.
No, it was in a can. I think it was, like, a Truly or something.
Oh, okay.
Wow,
And
stepping up their
fancy.
game. When I was in college, we just got, like, natties and, like, cheap beer. It was all, or, like, they would make this punch, and it would just be, like, cranberry vodka. So I hate cranberry vodka now.
I think we brought it ourselves.
Oh, okay. All right. That makes more sense.
Yeah. So I was just drinking my drink, and then my roommate came in and was like, what's wrong? I was like, I just want to go home. Like, and also, like, there was, like, this big party at this, like, I think it's called, like, the Shack, something like that. I don't know, something Shack. And there was this big party that night, like, way later that night.
Like a place in Nacogdoches, like a restaurant.
Yeah, it's
or
like a bar.
Okay.
That is, like, it's
18 and up.
Yeah, it's where everyone goes. That's just the place.
Is that where we went?
No, we went to Bonita. Bonita is, like, the dancing hall.
Oh, okay.
The dance hall, and then there's the bar.
Okay.
So at Shack, there was going to be this big party, which is, like, what our main plan was. Like, no matter what, we're going to Shack.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I just want to go home and, like, rest up and, like, sober up a little bit before we go. And she was like, okay, like, let me see what I can, like, if she can get someone to take us home.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. She's like, all right, we're leaving. I was like, okay. So we're walking out to the truck that brought us here to this frat party. And I turn around, and there's about 25 dudes walking out of this house following us. And I was like, what is this? She's like, oh, they're all coming to the dorm. Everyone that was in the living room that heard her say we're going to the dorm was like, okay, we're coming. So we piled in the truck, and I was in the bed of the truck with about, like, 8 guys, and then there was, like, 4 or 5 in the... And I think we took 2 cars. I think there was another truck that came, too. So I remember driving around. We just, like, somehow we ended up, like, in the middle of campus, like, just driving around with all these people in the truck, like, as if... And we're all drunk, like, as if it's... I don't even know. And so... Somehow we got back to the dorm, and I just wanted to lay down and take a nap. Mm-hmm. And we all get in there. You can't see my floor. There's so many guys just sitting in there. Her bed, there's about 4 guys sitting on her bed. I'm sitting, like, up against the wall in the corner in my bed. And then there's a bunch of guys like around me. And so the guy sitting next to me, his name was John. And then my roommate was kind of like up and walking around, and not to mention the bottles of, like, there was one bottle out, and that bottle of alcohol was mine. And they were all passing it around. And I was like, screw this. Like, if we're going to be here and y'all are drinking my alcohol, like, I'm going to drink my alcohol too. Like, you're not going to just drink my alcohol. So I'm drinking, like, from the bottle and taking as much as I can at a time. And the guy next to me, his name is John. And he's, like, feeling up on my roommate. And just, like, I was getting pissed. I was like, don't fucking touch her. Like, what are you doing? So then the other guy on my other side, he was, like, my savior that night. He was, like, the president. Mm-hmm. So he was really there to, like, make sure everyone was in line.
Yeah.
And supposedly John was a pledge. He wasn't even involved, like in there yet. Yeah. So he's, like, filling up on her, and then the other guy was like, we're just going to call him George. No, that's too close to John. We're going to call him Bob. Bob ended up getting onto him and was like, leave her alone. Like, stop touching her. And so then he stops or whatever. Well, then my roommate ended up getting sick, and she went into the bathroom and just started throwing up. Well, she went to the tub and was throwing up in the tub. And my bathroom, like where the toilet was like a whole separate room, but it was in the bathroom. Mm-hmm. So he was
like a closed off
area.
Yeah,
like a big
that you can shut the door to.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So he was in the restroom, like using the restroom. She's throwing up in the toilet. So then he sees her, and I guess he was trying to, I don't really know, but I came in there and I got her up and I got her into the bathroom so she can throw up in the toilet. And then I just left my room to all these guys, and me and my roommate both are in here. So then I went back into the room to, like, make sure that our stuff is, like, still there.
Yeah.
And so come back, and John's in the bathroom and has her locked in there. And I'm, like, banging on the door, like, John, get out, get out, get out. So then next thing I know, like, he's not coming out. I don't know what to do. So I went and got Bob. I was like, get him the fuck out of there. Like, this is not cool. If, like, I'm about to kick y'all out of my dorm. Like, y'all aren't even supposed to be in here, period. So then he goes in there and he's like, John, get out. So then she's crying because supposedly he was trying to do something to her and whatever. So she comes out and she's still drinking. We're all drinking, and I don't know how much time has gone by. But then this is where my memory kind of just goes blank, and this is where the story is kind of like, this person told me that this is what happened. And I remember, like, flashes of things that went on. I just remember being in the line. No. We ended up at another party, at another house. They kept saying, I think they said it was a Pike house. I guess there was two. I don't know. So we ended up at this house, and everyone's playing beer pong. And I told my roommate and her friends, like, I don't care what you do, don't leave my side. I know no one here. I just don't leave my side. Well, my roommate left her ID in the dorm. So she went over to Reese, and this is when the story gets rough. She went over to Reese, which Reese is, I guess, a person that she met that her family is really close with. Like, their families are really close. I don't really know. And Reese took her back to the dorm to get her ID. So there I am with her friend, and her friend is out and walking around, and I'm just sitting on this couch. And then Bob, the one that I was just kind of, like, going to, for, like, just, he just was a safe person. I could just tell. Wasn't there. And I was just kind of, like, sitting on the couch, not talking to anyone. Well, then he walked in, and he went to the gas station, and he had bought me, like, a drink, and it was safe. It was, like, a peel-off kind of thing. So he bought me a drink. He was like, sorry I left you, like, but, like, you're okay now, like, whatever. I was like, okay. So then, I guess I remember piling into a truck again, and at this point I lose my roommate's friend. Don't know where she went. I'm just in the truck with all these guys I don't know, and I'm completely drunk. And then I remember just being in the line at Shack, and then I remember, I think, so one of my friends from high school, it was like, from my class, there was only 3 of us that went to SFA. And one of them I didn't know, but one of them I was close with. And I saw her, and I, like, ran up to her, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, how are you? I haven't seen you in a while, blah, blah, blah. Well, then at this point, I've lost everybody. I don't know. So I'm just kind of sticking around with her. And she's kind of, like, frustrated. She's like, where's your roommate at? Like, why are you just here? How did you get here? Like, what is going on? And then from my videos, there's videos of me passed out on the bar. There's videos of me just, like, complete in a daze. Like, almost as if I'm on drugs, not even drunk. Like, as if someone roofied me. Yes, most definitely. And I do remember some guy that just kept walking up to me and was like, here, like, take my drink. And, like, no one's really paying attention. I'm here by myself. Like, why not take this drink? So I took it, like, multiple times I did. And then the next thing I know, I'm over the toilet in Shack throwing up. And my friend from high school is like, what's your password to your phone? Like, I'm going to get in contact with your roommate. No one knows where she's at. No one's heard from her. So she somehow, I don't know how, but gets in contact with my roommate. And, like, I guess she came to pick me up. So from this point, I remember walking in the parking lot. Just, it almost felt like the world was tilting back and forth. And it was just like a flash. That's all I really remember of it. It was just the flash of that. And then on my videos, there's a video of me, I guess, walking into my dorm. And I'm like, and then that's all you hear. And then I go into my dorm, and what I remember, I literally just got into bed and passed out. And I only remember my roommate and this guy, Reese, being in my room. And I was wearing, like, a green shirt, jean shorts, and, like, Vans. Next thing I know, I don't know how much time has passed through this, but I just remember, like, waking up in a complete panic, screaming, crying, like, balled up in the corner. I don't know what I'm crying about. I don't know. And then I look down, and all I have on is a sweatshirt. And I don't know how I got the sweatshirt on. I have nothing else but the sweatshirt on. And then my roommate and Reese are just standing there laughing. Like, like she's crying. Like, she just needs to go to bed. So then I just kind of, like, laid back down and passed out again. And then the next morning I wake up and I sit up and, like, I'm so sore. Like, in places that you will only be sore if you did something the night before. And as far as I knew, I didn't do anything. So it was like, but I don't remember it. So I'm not going to say that this happened to me because I don't remember it. So then I look over at my roommate's bed, and Reese is in the bed. And he's on, like, she's on the wall, and he's on my side. He's not, like, he's just on top of the covers and the comforter and everything. And he doesn't have pants on. And I was just like, okay, like, what do okay, I'm just going to pretend like that didn't happen. And then I just kind of, like, sat up, and then he ended up waking up. He goes, damn, you sleep funny. I was like, what do you mean? He was like, yeah, you slept with your ass in the air the entire night. Like, as if I was on my knees, my head's in the pillow. And I was like, what? Like, if I was drunk, I would have just passed out. And I wouldn't pass out like that.
Yeah.
One, I wouldn't have changed clothes.
Right.
I wouldn't move around. Like, I'd be passed out drunk. I'd just be laying there sleeping. And I'm a crazy sleeper, but all I do is scoot down the bed. I don't, like, sit up or do weird things. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And so...
You don't sleep like that.
Yeah, no, not at all. No, I've never
No one
slept like
sleeps
that.
like that. Babies do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
babies sleep like that, like in the fetal position.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so that kind of, like, threw me off. And I was like, okay.
Well, and the fact that he said that
Yeah.
is,
Like the fact that he
causes
commented on it
suspicion.
was like,
Yeah.
like, why were you paying attention because I was sleeping?
Yeah.
Especially if I didn't have pants on.
Yeah.
Like, I had nothing on
And
but
you,
this
and
sweatshirt.
not just that, but like you knowing, like, yes, I might have been drunk, but I know I went to sleep with my clothes on.
Yes.
And then the fact that you woke up and didn't have those same clothes on.
Yeah, that causes
I
suspicion.
literally know that I went to sleep in my shoes. I was so gone that I wouldn't even have known how to do any of
Change
that.
out of your clothes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that just throws me off. And then I kind of just waited for him to leave. And then about 10:30.
So how was the, like, when your roommate woke up and, like, how was
Like the
vibe
yeah.
in the
Well,
room?
at this point, she's still asleep. I think,
Okay, so he just woke up and left?
I guess so. It was like 10:30 whenever he left.
Okay.
And I think she was still sleeping. But I know that as soon as she sat up, I just looked over at her and I said, I was about to say her name. Nickname.
Caroline.
Caroline. Did he rape me last night? She was like, no, like, of course not. Like, that I know him. Like, he's my family friend. Like, he wouldn't do that. And I was like, okay. So at this point, like, we're in college. She's basically my only friend on campus. Like, I had so much trust in her that I didn't want to question it because, I mean,
She's like one of your only friends.
yeah,
there.
I should be
Yeah.
able to trust her. And if she
Well,
felt
and
safe with
also-
him being in the room,
Yes, and also, if that did happen, as a friend and a normal human being, a decent human being, if you're in the room and something like that happens and you don't do
react.
something, something's wrong with you as a person. Because I know for any of my friends, even if
A stranger,
like,
even for a stranger. Yeah.
but especially my friends and especially my roommate, who you share a fucking room with, you would do something if that happened. So the fact that she's saying that it didn't happen, I mean,
Not
it's
just-
very...
I don't-
if it's
I don't
like
think
I
she
hooked up
said-
with someone.
Well,
like
it's
if
very,
I
like, at the time, believable for you to trust her because you're like,
exactly.
for a human being to not do something would be insane.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I would understand why you would take her for her word at this point in time, you know?
Yeah. So basically, after that, I kind of just, like, let it float over. Like, maybe I fell, or maybe, I don't know.
But, like, did you ever ask her, like, hey, like, I know I went to sleep in my clothes, like, did you even know whose sweatshirt you were wearing?
It was mine. It was the one that I got whenever I went to go visit my brother. So, I mean, it wasn't like some random, but
also, like, because, I mean, there have been points in time when, like, you're, like, not you in particular, like, for me, myself, I've been drunk and it's like, help me take my, like, put me in my PJs, and, like, Luis has changed me on my clothes before, and it's like, you're not in the clothes that you went to bed in, or, like, you thought that you went to bed
But
in.
if that's the case, then
But,
she
like,
should have been like, oh,
I
if
changed
this is,
you.
Yeah,
yes.
like, normal conversation. Like,
Yeah.
Erin always, like, oh, like,
What happened?
she's changed me, I've changed her.
Yeah.
Like,
well, we
Yeah.
always have just, like, that
we always
banter
have,
in
like,
the
a
morning.
recap. We have,
Exactly.
like, a recap.
It's like,
yeah.
what the fuck happened last night? I don't remember. What do you remember?
Yeah.
Give me your
And there was
flashbacks. I'll
none of
remember.
that. There was none of that. It was literally like,
Well, and
I
that's
asked
She's
her
just,
point
like, not
blank.
acknowledging it.
Exactly. I asked her
which
point
is
blank,
also
and then
suspicious, yeah.
that was the end of the conversation. And it wasn't, and I was honestly it was kind of like a denial thing for me. Like, I
Yeah.
didn't want to, like, I didn't know. I don't remember it. And I think, honestly, like, through this whole process, I think that helps me a lot. The fact that I don't remember it and it wasn't, like, awfully traumatic.
Yeah.
I think that
but I think it's so traumatic because it's like
how do you trust again after that?
You have this trust, but it's like you have this timeline of like you have no memory, and that's scary because you're living with someone. Like when you sleep with someone, like that's a lot of trust that you have. Like you're gonna have my back, I'm gonna have yours, because I sleep next to you, and like I'm supposed to like help you. Yeah. And she's just like, like, no, like, blah, blah, blah. Like, it's like...
Yeah.
Which was very her personality, by the way. You hit it on the nail.
Yeah. Very.
Yes. Very.
But basically, I just kind of, like, brush it off. Obviously, it's always in the back of my mind. And, like, I wanted answers, but I didn't want to push for them, because if I got them, then I would be devastated.
Yeah. Well, and just, just like you didn't want to... Like, it's like you already knew. You just didn't want to confirmation.
Yeah, exactly.
And
you were still pretty, like
this
new
was
in school.
Fresh.
Like, it was school.
Yeah, this happened. Okay, so the date that it all happened was September 7th. It was
2 weeks before Dad and I came up.
On my birthday.
Yeah.
Which I'm going to get to that in a minute. So... Yeah, it was always in the back of my mind, but I just didn't want to question it. But I did. I did question it. Yeah. It was, like, there was another night where we went out walking, and we ended up just going to the football stadium and just kind of sitting at the dark football stadium, and I just kind of looked at her like, Caroline, did he rape me? Because I, in my heart, fully believe that it did happen. And she was like, no, like, I've already told you, like, no, it didn't happen, I promise. And I just kind of...
So this is twice now that she's denying anything happened.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think I asked her another time, and once again, it was a no, so I just kind of like, okay, no.
Yeah, like at this point, like I'm just going to have to accept.
Like a broken record. She's saying the same thing.
Yeah.
It's like you're not hearing anything.
And at this point, like I'm trying to move on from it. I'm like, I'm just going to make an excuse for what it is. Like I fell. I fell on a rock, and I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. But, so then about a week and a half go by, and it's my birthday weekend, and I'm turning 19, and my dad and my sister...
It's family weekend.
Family weekend. My dad and my sister are coming up, and so, of course, I deep clean the shit out of our dorm, and I clean all the sheets, I clean all my clothes, I scrub the carpets, I clean the bathtub, everything, and which comes to bite me in the butt later, but I don't know if you realized that weekend, though, that I was kind of, like...
There were some things that were, like, a little bit off, like the fact... It was, like, when we were drinking, like, before we went to the bar or whatever, or the dance hall, and you're like, I haven't drank in, like, 3 or 4 weeks, and it was, like...
Which is weird, because I drank a lot at first.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, like, it's fine, like, I didn't obviously know what was going on at the time, but, like, we ended up having a really fun time, and, like, everything kind of seemed normal, and...
There was one time specifically that I remember, like, I didn't catch it at the time, but, like, now looking back, like, we were in the car driving around campus, and I just remember, like, sitting in the back seat, like, I just want to go home, like, I don't want to be out, because there were so many people out, and it was just, like...
When I was there?
Yeah, it was me, you, and Dad in the truck, and it was also, like, y'all wanted to go do all this stuff, and I was like, okay, well, y'all go do that, and I'm just going to stay at home. I'm going to get ready for the football game, or I'm going to, like, we have all these plans, and I feel guilty because y'all didn't know anything that was going on, but at the same time, like, I didn't know myself, so, like, I didn't want to tell y'all, and, like, I don't know, but, so that all happened, and then, so exactly 3 weeks from September 7th, I don't know exactly what date that was, but
it was a Wednesday at like 2 a.m.
Yeah, it was. I know it was a Wednesday.
I remember that.
Caroline, I was at this point. I'm stuck to my dorm. Excuse me.
It's okay.
I'm stuck to my dorm, and I just go to class, and I go back to my dorm, and I go to sleep, and that was my day every single day. I never did my homework. I started failing classes because I just didn't want to face it.
Comfortable anywhere.
I didn't. I just wanted to be asleep because whenever I was asleep, I didn't have to think about anything.
Yeah.
So which at this point, my roommate is just kind of going off the deep end, and she is falling for this boy and whatever, and so she went to his dorm, and they got drunk, and I had told her, like, hey, please don't come in super late. Like, I know you're going to be drinking, but if you need a ride somewhere, call me. You know I'm just going to be at the dorm, whatever. So it got really late, and I texted her, like, hey, like, are you okay? Like, where are you at? And she responded, and then next thing I know, this guy is Snapchatting me, and he's like, how dare you? You're a fucking awful person, and da-da-da-da-da-da. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he was like, how dare you bring this guy into your dorm room and let him rape her? And at this point, I'm like, okay, are these my answers? Like, and she was very, like, attention-seeking. She would do anything. She would flip a story any second just so that she can get that, like, oh, like I'm
satisfaction.
So yeah, just attention. Not to mention this guy that she likes, and she wants to be in talk whatever she wants with him. He had a girlfriend. He, like, didn't want anything to do with her. So I can see where
she would use that.
She would use my story to get attention and get this guy's attention. And so at this point, I'm not even thinking, like, oh my gosh, he's blaming it on me.
No, you're just like,
I'm
what the
thinking,
fuck? Like, I've been trying to figure this shit out myself.
Yeah. I'm just thinking, like, I have to talk to her.
Yeah.
So at this point, my best friend, I'm on the phone with my best friend, the one that ends up dating my next roommate. I'm on the phone with him, and I'm, like, not even crying. I'm just kind of, like, shaking, and I can't speak.
Angry and, like,
you're just, like, going through all these emotions, adrenaline. And your body can't pick one, and you're just, like,
you don't know how to feel.
Yeah.
He's like, Megan, like, what's going on? And I was like, I think that it's real. Like, I think I was raped. And he was like, don't say that. Like, don't put that accusation on anybody. And I was like, can I just call you later? Like, I'll call you back in a little bit. He's like, okay. So I run in my suite mate's room, which at this point, them and me aren't very close, but we're close enough that I trusted them. So I run in there, and I tell them what's going on, and I think at this point, it's probably like 11 or 12, and I'm trying to contact Erin, but she's sleeping, like, it's a Wednesday night, so she had work the next morning, so, excuse me, so she's sleeping, and I was like, I don't even remember how it came about, but
y'all ended up, I think, looking at her location, and she was, like, wandering around campus. Okay, and so then y'all went to go find her.
I was like, let me look at her location, and I'm going to go find her, and I'm going to, like, confront her about it. So I look at her location, and she's at the duck pond, with, like, the ag pond. And so I'm, like, walking around with my suite mates behind me, and I find her, and she's, like, sitting on this bench with this guy, and with a different guy.
Not the guy that texted you.
Not the guy that texted me, but a different guy.
She's, like, wanting attention from?
Not that guy. A different guy. And it was one of her friends, but he was just, like, a low-life dude.
She picked up a hitchhiker.
Yeah. I need someone to talk to.
But she's, like, crying. Or no. Whenever we walked up, they were laughing. They were just kind of, like, sitting there laughing. And I was like, Caroline, like, I need you to tell me straight to my face right now. Did he rape me that night? And she just started crying. And I was like, tell me now. And she just, like, looked up.
And she's been drinking.
Yeah.
Okay.
But at this point, like, it's not like she can't, it's not like she's slurring her words. It's
Right.
not like, and I don't think she ever got to that point.
Like, the truth always comes out, and, like, you always say, I mean, what's the saying?
It's like, drunk people
say what's on their mind, or something.
Yeah, something like that. There's a saying, but, like, they tend to say, like, the truth comes out when you're drunk, because you're just, like, your filter's not working.
Mm-hmm. So, she just kind of, like, looks up at me, and she was like, yes, Megan, like, he raped you. And at this point, like, I start screaming, and I'm like, how could you? Like, why would you not tell me? Like, I'm not mad at you because it happened. I'm mad at you because you didn't tell me.
You lied to my face multiple times.
And I think that's what gets me the most is, like,
how can a human being do that?
How can
one rape someone?
Yeah.
Not just that, but
in
it's
general.
Like, she's supposed to be your
friend.
friend.
How can someone lie about it?
She's supposed to be your friend. And it's like a friend does not fucking do that.
Not only that, but she flipped the story and told her friends that I brought this guy in, that I knew him, he was my family friend, and that I allowed him to rape her. And it was just like,
that's disgusting.
Absolutely disgusting.
The whole entire
such a,
thing.
Like, sociopath thing to do.
Yeah.
Oh, like, for sure.
Like, sociopaths tend to, like, study people's reactions to certain things. So then they know, like, this is how I react and this is how I'm going to get the attention and, like, blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's just fucking crazy.
Yeah. So, at this point, like, I'm complete panic, like, out of it. So then I walk off, and I'm in, like, a parking lot, and I can just hear my suite mates, like, screaming at her and just, like, why would you do that? Like, what is going on?
I would punch her in the face and throw her in the duck pond. And then throw a rock at her head.
Yeah, it was, I don't know. But then at this point, like, I'm having a panic attack, and I ended up, like, passing out next to a car, and, like, my suite mates found me and had to calm me down and all this stuff. And so then I finally, like, came to terms with it really quick. And the whole process of it, I kind of did very differently, which I'll get into that in a little bit. But very quickly, I kind of just, like, you know, it is what it is. We're going to move on. Life goes on. Like, it's okay.
Your body was like, okay, like, now I know. Like, I was right. Like, my gut feeling was right all along.
Because I feel like you were trying to move on. You were trying to do all this stuff, and it just...
Before it even...
Yeah,
there was, like, this roadblock, and you just couldn't move past that.
Now the fact that you have the answer, your body was like...
Okay. Yeah. Good. So then we're walking back to the dorm, and then Caroline walks in front of us, like, crosses... How do I explain that?
Like, perpendicular?
Yeah, like, just crosses our path. And I see her chunk her phone towards our dorm building. And I knew, like, her mom tracks her. Like, her mom...
was also a psychopath.
Very crazy woman.
Runs in the family.
Yeah. But honestly, she had good reason. Like, the girl was crazy. The girl would go off and just... just make bad decisions, and who knows who she would end up. So her mom had good reason, too, but... So she knew that her mom would track her. So if her phone was by the dorm, that her mom would think that she's there. So then I ran over, and it had, like, all of her credit cards, her ID, everything on the back of her phone.
Oh, my God. So irresponsible.
Yeah. I ran over there, and I grabbed her phone, and I brought it back to the dorm. And then at this point, I'm like, I don't know what to do, because I just got told this information, and then she just kind of, like, walks off off campus by herself, and she has, like, booty shorts on and, like, just this raunchy shirt on, and I was just like,
no phone.
But that still shows, like, how good of a person you are. Like, you still went over, like, even after the fact, you're like, I'm still gonna be a good person, pick up her phone and make sure everything's okay.
Yeah. But then, like, at this point, I'm thinking, like, anything could happen to her. So then I called her mom, and I was like, hey, Caroline and I got into an issue, a very difficult issue, and she basically threw her phone and walked off by herself. I don't know where she is. I don't have, like, I don't know. And I was like, but I don't want to be the one to find her. I'm not going to go look for her. Yeah. So I'm just letting you know that I don't know where she is. Mm-hmm. And she was like, because they live 2 hours away, so she was like, well, call UPD. And I was like, okay. So I call UPD. Well,
which is the campus police.
Oh,
yes.
I was about to say, what's UPD for?
University Police.
Okay.
For those of us that don't know.
UPS? Someone to ship her back up?
But they ended up finding her and bringing her back to our dorm room, which she gets back and she's just all laughy and go giddy. And I walked in there and I was just like,
personality disorder, bipolar.
Yeah. I was like, I'm just letting you know I'm staying in our suite mate's room. Like, I won't be in here. Like, probably at all if you're in here. Yeah. And so then she was like, oh, by the way, as the cop is standing in our doorway, by the way, I have weed in here.
What an idiot.
Okay.
What did the cop do?
He just left. He was like, there's too much going on. Like,
let me call the real police.
Well, yeah, exactly. That's the whole UPD situation is awful at SFA. I mean, there's a whole thing going on right now about probably like a whole racial thing.
Probably not just at SFA, like.
No, it's.
But
I'm
yeah,
sure it's
but at SFA specifically, there's a whole issue about racial, like some. I don't know. You can read into it, but basically UPD covered it up for these white girls against a black girl. But you can,
Lord.
yeah. Oh. It's a whole thing. So he left, and then I stayed in my suite mate's room, and I'm still trying to get in contact with my sister. And I finally get in contact with her, and she's like, hello.
At like 2 a.m., I finally, why she called me 15 times?
Yeah.
Like, what's going on? Like, oh my God, it was
I want to know what your thought process was. Like,
I didn't know. I mean,
did you think, like, when you saw that I was calling so much, like, did you think, like she's drunk?
Well, I guess, no, like, I honestly, I guess, didn't realize that you had called me so much until after the fact because I was sleeping and I answered just one of your calls. Mm-hmm. And so then I'm like, hey, like, what's going on? Like, are you okay? And then, like, you're crying at this point. And I'm like, what's wrong? Like, tell me what's going on. And basically you just told me the whole story, like, what you just told. Mm-hmm. And you're like, it happened. And I was like, what happened? Like, what are you talking about? And you just were like, it happened. Like, it's true. And, like, I think you were in the room with your suite mates at this point in time. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, do I need to come get you? Like, I can drive down there, like, first thing in the morning. Like, I can come, like, pack your stuff. And I think we decided that you were just going to come home that weekend.
No, the next morning.
Or, yeah, come home that next morning. And then that, like, I don't know, obviously, like, I wanted you to file a report and, like.
Which, at this point, I'm like, my thought process is like, okay, now it's my time to, like, now it's your story. This is the part that's gonna hurt the most. Is like, I have to go home and I have to tell my mom, and then I have to tell my dad, and I have to tell my brother, and like, how like, are they gonna look at me differently? Or
yeah, and I remember it was really hard because they didn't understand, like, why you were coming home.
And I didn't tell them for a while. I came home that Thursday morning, and I think I went straight to my friend's house. I didn't tell them I was home.
Well, and I think, too, your mom had, like, your email password or something and was, like, checking your grades or checking your email or something.
Yes, because my grades were dropping.
And so she was like, why are you coming home? Like, you need to be going to classes. And so that started a whole thing, like.
And I also made the mistake, I mean, not really a mistake, but, like, I didn't do it in the right order. I personally did not want to tell my parents by myself. I wanted to tell somebody and then somebody tell my parents.
Yeah, which isn't how it. And I told you, I was like, you need to be the one that tells them because
they're gonna have questions that you can't answer.
Well, and they're your parents. They're gonna love you no matter what.
Which I didn't want to hear that. So
I know, but I mean, it's the truth though.
Yeah.
I mean, you could literally have no arms and no legs, and like they would still love you.
Yeah.
And this thing that happened to you doesn't make you who you are, and it doesn't define you as a person, and it's not your fault, and it's like those are all true things. And at the time, like, it's still so fresh. It's like you don't, like, you know that, but hearing them from someone who hasn't necessarily gone through that is hard. And like there's not,
but also I knew that like I had time to like come to terms with it, and telling my parents like it's going to be completely new to them, and to know like we just sent our child off to this school thinking she was completely safe, and then this happens, like why did I not know, you know, like they're going to have like guilt, and I didn't want them to carry the guilt. But
I think as parents, and I'm, you know, obviously not a parent, but like even as a big sister, like I just spent the weekend before with you, and like I didn't even realize anything had happened. And it's like, like there was stuff that was off, but like never to this magnitude I would ever have thought that this was what it was. And like I don't know, sometimes people just go through like little slumps, and like they want to just stay at home, and like I do that sometimes. So like it's not like that would be my first thought if you were just off a little bit, you know. And I hadn't seen you in a while, so it was just like exciting for like us to be together. And but I think the like hard part about like telling your mom and dad was that like you just didn't want to be judged or like thought of as like someone different. And like that was totally not the case, you know, whatsoever. And I think that throughout this whole process, like you've been very open about it to people that like you've told, and like it's just been kind of like, this happened to me, it doesn't define me, I'm gonna be stronger, I'm gonna, you know, it's gonna make me a better person in the end, like and I think, and I am very like proud of how you handled it and how you've you know handled it. And I'm gonna start crying.
Don't, because you're gonna make me cry.
But I'm very proud of you, like, because I've never been, that's, you know, I've never experienced it. Like there's not anything that anyone could say to make the situation better. There's things that they can try to say, they can try to empathize, they can try to, you know, I'm okay. They can try to, but like at the end of the day, it doesn't change what happened. Yeah. And like that's what my biggest thing was, like just letting you know that I'm there for you if you ever want to talk about it, if you ever want to, you know, tell me, and I can just listen. And I think that is really important for any family members that someone like this has happened to. Like, there's nothing that you can say to make it better. There's not. Yeah.
Which I don't, I mean, I'm going to pause where I was, but, because I think that that's like a really important thing to talk about. But whenever I talk to people about it, I don't like oh, I'm so sorry that happened to you. I don't like the little petty, like, I always convert it, and I always like, you know, it's okay. Like, things happen. But I'm also super, super open about it, and I think that that's helped me a lot. And I'm a very open person in general. Like, if you walk up to me tomorrow and you're like, oh my gosh, like, are you okay with this? Like, what happened with this situation? I'll just be like, oh, this is what happened with that situation. Yeah. Like, I'm completely open and honest about a lot of things that usually people would be personal, like, keep to themselves. And I think that oh my goodness.
Well, and I think that, like, people say, like, therapists say,
like, the more you bottle it up, like, the worse the outcome is.
Which I am a bottler. Whenever it comes to, like, having an issue, like, if you and I got into, like, an argument.
Like a conflict thing.
I bottled that up.
Right.
But, like,
she
whenever
wouldn't confront you about it.
Yeah, no. But whenever it's, like, me and I have my personal issue,
Y'all would have a lumpy rug.
Yeah, we would.
Y'all would have a lumpy ass rug.
But whenever I have my personal issues, that's the things that I'm like very open about, and I think that that's what helps me the most.
And
about
I think
this
that's
whole process.
very good, Megan, because that's what my therapist tells me. Like, when things happen, like you have to be able to process it in the moment, because then like it sucks, and like I think that's what our fault as human beings. Like, it's like keeping it, I guess it's not a secret, but like most people that do go through it, like they feel shame, and it's very a lot of exactly, and a lot of the times, like, society sadly has made it seem like it's the norm, like it's her fault, and it's like you know, it's caused a lot of women to like hide behind closed doors, and
not
you have shown up. It's like, no, like I am stronger than this, and like their shit, like I've come out on like the grass is greener on my side.
Well, and so like let's talk about you making the report, because you did you didn't necessarily go and make the report the next day, but
initially
you did.
I was like,
eventually,
you know, this is what happened, and I'm gonna move on. I don't want to make a report. I'm just gonna deal with it myself and move on. Well, I come home and I told my mom, and we had this deep conversation. We cried and we cried and cried, and she's like, okay, well, let's go make that report. And I was like, no. She was like, why? And I think she understood me. She understood me a lot better, just because she's a woman and like she knows. So I was like, I don't want to. I want to deal with it myself. And one, there's no evidence, because like I said, family weekend happened. I cleaned everything. So no matter what, if there was any evidence, it's gone.
Yeah.
If there's anything, like, it's gone. So there's nothing I can do on that end of it. Yeah. I don't remember it. All it is I've been told this, and I woke up sore. That's literally all that.
But then you also have her confession.
I have her confession. I have
in
two
front
witnesses.
of other people. Yes.
So, but at the same time, like, you put that on a jury, like, you say that to a jury, and they're not, like, that's not enough.
Yeah, it's like, it's
that's not
their
enough
word
to convict.
against mine.
Exactly. That's not enough to convict him. So I'm not going to fight a battle I won't win. Yeah. I'm not going to relive this every single day. I'm not going to make this my life. Like, so she was like, okay, I understand. Well, then, and I told my brother, I told him over the phone because I just couldn't tell him to his face, but I called him and I told him, and he was just like, well, okay.
Who do I need to kill?
Yeah, basically, like, protective brother mode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, I have my gun in my truck, and I will go to Belmont, and I will kill him.
I seriously remember.
It's like, he's like, Louisa, let's look his fucking name up right now. Get his address on your FBI search engine.
We found him.
We did find him. And
y'all did?
Yes.
Erin immediately was like, I need you. And I was like, okay, I'm on it.
Yes, we did.
Who are we fucking up?
Yeah, we fucking found him. Funny. And then Mason was like, we're going.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Probably would have for you.
But, so I told my brother, and I told my brother my way home before I told my mom. And I wanted my brother to go tell my mom. I didn't want to tell my mom.
Yeah, and you wanted me to tell Dad. I was like, I'm not doing that.
Yeah. And so my brother didn't tell my mom, but he told my mom, hey, Megan's coming home, and she needs to talk to you, but wouldn't tell her anything else. So my mom knew, and I was trying to hide from my parents for the first couple of days where I could just gather my thoughts and just kind of, and, well, my mom found out, and she went ballistic. She blew my phone up, was yelling at me, and she was like, this isn't fair, and da-da-da. I said, you know what, like,
she called me, too.
I just got to a point where she just kept saying, like, it's, like, this is not fair. Like, it's not fair that you think that you just get to up and leave when you want to leave and come home when you want to come home. And I just, on the phone, I was like, you know what, Mom? Like, life isn't fucking fair. And I just ended the call, and I left it at that. Mm-hmm. And then whenever I was ready to tell her, I told her, and then she understood, and everything was fine. And then it was time to tell my dad. And our dad is a very, like, reserved. I feel like he keeps his emotions, he controls his emotions pretty well. I mean, for the most part.
Erin's like, I don't think so.
For the most part, I think that, like, his initial reaction, he tries to, like, he doesn't show his initial reaction first.
Like, yeah, to strangers. And
yeah, like, or just to, like, I don't really know how to explain it. I mean, with me personally, I haven't experienced, Dad on a whole different level with a whole different platform. But with me, it's always been, like, he's just kind of, like, he's a happy man, and that's just how it is.
Yeah.
And so when I told him, I tried to kind of, like, beat around the bush and, like, give him context clues and, like, not tell him. And he was just like, well, what happened? What happened?
Oh, he's a question asker for sure.
Yeah.
He will ask
and I just
100 questions.
Yeah. I just looked at him and I said, Dad, I was raped. And he was just like, well, what are we going to do about it? And I was just like, nothing. And then he got angry. He was angry at me. He was like, why? Like, you don't understand. Like, you don't know what it's like to be a parent. And, like, I might cry talking about this because it's like, how do I, like, comfort him and get him to understand me, and two, like, I don't know what he's feeling. Like, he's a parent. Like, he just wants to protect me. Mm-hmm. And so, like, it was just kind of like, well, I just want Dad. There's nothing that I can do. Like, it's not going to go anywhere. It's not worth the fight. It's just going to break me even more. So let's just, like, figure it out from here and build on what we have. Like, it's okay. And then I think
that his anger probably wasn't necessarily anger. It was probably anger and guilt at the situation. It was never, like, towards you.
Me. And I never thought that it was towards me. It was just, like, whenever you see your dad, whenever you see, like, the man that is supposed to be, like, that, I mean, is stable in your life and always is, like, leading you in the right direction. Mm-hmm. Like, gets so protective over you and has no power over the situation that's going on. Like, it's hard. I feel like at this point, like, how do I comfort him at this point? Because I've had time to deal with it. He hasn't. So, that was rough. But that next Monday, I decided, which another thing that I did on my way home, another person I told was, like, the person that I was talking to at the time, who was back home. And it was a thing from high school, who we're not going to get into that, but
whole nother story.
Yeah. I called him and I told him, like, hey, like, this happened.
That's a loud call.
Sorry. Sorry.
I told him, I was like, hey, this happened. And the thing that stuck with me the most, and I think this is why I don't drink that often now, like, if I literally only drink whenever I'm with you, like, that's about it.
Which made me think, like, maybe I have a problem.
It's just, like, that's my she's my safe net. Like,
but I did
tell you can trust, like, the circle that.
Yeah.
Within,
like, I would never let anything happen to you. Louisa would never let anything happen to you.
Her circle is deep, and they've known each other for a long time. Yeah. So, like, basically, I'm, like, the little sister edition. Like, they're gonna protect me.
You fuck with her. You fuck with us.
Exactly.
And we do, like, the little sumo chant. We're like, I don't know. We'll come up with one later.
What was I saying?
You were telling that guy that you were talking to at the time.
Oh, yeah. The thing about that stuck with me, and he was like, he wasn't shocked. He was just like, oh, I saw that coming. Like, I knew that was going to happen. And I was like, what? He was like, yeah, like, your drinking got completely out of control, and...
That's not an excuse.
Exactly. And I was just like, okay.
That doesn't give the right for anyone to take advantage of anyone. If I'm passed out in the street, that doesn't give a stranger the right to violate anyone. That's like, not like
whether you're drunk or you're sober, whether, like, you're in your hoochie shorts or you're completely like in a burqa. It gives no one, like,
no one has the right to touch you if you do not want them to touch you.
Yeah.
Coherent or not. If you're not coherent, That is a no.
What I always tell, like, my guy friends is, like, if you walk into a bar or if you're at a party, whatever the case is, if you see that girl take one drink, bets are off for the night. Like, if there's alcohol in her system, don't do anything to her because you don't know, you don't know what the fuck was in that drink that she just drank. Mm-hmm. You don't know if someone roofied her. You don't know. Like, you don't know.
Yeah.
So she could have taken one sip, and if it's roofied, like, she's out of her mind, no matter what. Don't touch her. Like, any sort of, like, just period.
Yeah.
But that's always, I mean, that's kind of, like, my rule of thumb whenever it comes to that.
Yeah.
But.
So, on that, I mean, I know that we were going to talk about the report and how that's all going and everything. But I do want to touch about, like, now since it's been, like, it's been a year.
It's been
about a year, yeah.
It's been over a year.
And I want to, like, talk about, like, how you're coping now and, like, how you're feeling now. And,
how are you getting back into, like, the dating game? How are you trusting guys again?
Or well, just, like,
I want to touch on the report a little bit.
Okay, let's do that.
So I'm just going to be real quick about it. But basically, that Monday I went back to school. And my first thing was I need to get her out of my room. Yeah. I talked to my RAs, and they were like, well, if you want her out of the room, then you have to move out. And it's like
this room was mine.
This is my handicap room.
Yeah. Like, medically, I have to have this room. So, and she was like, well, then I guess we're not allowed to, like, make her leave. And so then they're like, well, can I ask you why? And like I said, I'm super open about it. So here you go. So I told the story, and they're like, oh, well, by law, we have to tell our director. I was like, okay. I said, I don't want to make a report. I don't want this getting to the police station. I want to deal with it on my own. She's like, okay, they won't make you make a report, but we have to tell her. And I was like, that's fine as long as it doesn't go to the police station. She was like, okay. So she comes in. This is my second time telling the story. After telling my family all weekend, over and over and over and over and over and over again, second time, I tell the lady the story. Okay, well, by law, I have to report this to the police station. So then at this point, like, I have no choice. They're going to make a report. They're going to tell them my name. So then I'm like, you know what? Screw it. Here you go. And I gave it to the police station. So then, come to find out, there was not just one guy in my room. There was 3. And, like, whenever I went and passed out, there was 3 guys in my room, which I didn't know about. And
how did you come to that?
They caught him on the cameras.
Oh.
And you can tell in the cameras I'm, like, running into walls. I'm just completely off. And then all of them are just standing back, kind of, like, laughing.
Yeah.
And so basically, after I did that, the next day, I got back from my classes, and a police officer comes and knocks on my door and takes me and puts me in the police car, takes me to the police station. And then they question me, and they make me tell them the whole story again. Mm-hmm. And then after I tell them the story, I have to write the story. And then after that, they're like, okay, you can go. Well, then the next day, police come up again. They take me in the police car, take me to the police station. And it's a whole thing again. Well, this whole time, while I'm in class, they're taking my roommate to the police station. And every single time, she's denying to talk. She won't tell them what happened. Every time she just gets in there, she cries, and then she's like, I'm not doing this, and walks out. And then they're also trying to get in contact with him, and he won't answer, and da-da-da-da. And so then about a month later, they finally get in contact with him, and it's his lawyer, and his lawyer's like, this is so-and-so's attorney. If you would like to speak to him, you can speak to me, like, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. So he's lawyered up.
So, yeah, if, like, if nothing happened, why are you lawyered up?
Yeah, exactly.
Guilty.
So then at this point, they're like, oh, shit. So then they make me make a fake name, like an alias. Mm-hmm. So I make this alias because they were like, this is a big deal. Like, if, like, it happened in your room, like, in your dorm room, which is, like, kind of unheard of, I guess. Mm-hmm. And so they were like, well, it might, if it hits news, we don't want your name on there, kind of thing. Okay. So, that all happened, and then it was just kind of like dead. I didn't hear anything. I would call every single day. Hey, like, what's up?
For an update.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you were pretty much like, okay, like, if I have to do this damn report, let's
then you're
do
gonna,
it.
like, you're gonna
exactly. Close the case, and it's like...
Or if not, then...
Just tell me.
Just kind of just be like, this isn't strong enough. Don't pursue it as if it's going to be some big thing. They were preparing me to, like, go to trial. They were preparing me to, like, hit the news in, like, a lot.
Stand before a jury and, like, tell your story, like, one more time.
Yeah. Yes. You know? And that was exactly what I didn't want. But if I had to do it, I was going to do it. Yeah. So, then it just got to a point where I could not get myself out of bed, and I couldn't go to class, and there was no way I was going to be able to pass my classes after all of this. So I just called my dad one day, and I was like, Dad, I'm coming home. Well, after a long talk with, like, a close friend of mine, and I just couldn't stop crying, and they were just like, you call your parents, you need to come home. So I called, and that next day, I think it was, like, that next day or the day after or something like that, Erin and my dad show up, and we pack all my stuff up, and I was out of there, and haven't looked back since. Yeah. But
were you able to, like, move her out?
No.
No.
She would still be there.
Yeah.
I mean, well, she would. I'm sure. She
ended up coming back 2 weeks later, because I was still friends with my suite mates, so they knew what was going on.
Yeah.
She ended up coming back 2 weeks later, didn't she? Which also
coming back
this
where?
Whole time to school.
Okay.
So because she had left, like a couple days before I left, she went home. But also this whole time we're in school, we had been in school for like 8 or 9 weeks at this point. She never went to a single class ever. Like, not even over exaggerating. I would walk her to a class. And then I would come back and she'd be gone.
That's weird.
Like, ever went to a class. She said that she just had anxiety over it and she just couldn't walk in. So she just didn't go. And so she left, and then 2 weeks later she just came back and got all of her stuff and moved out.
What did she do, like, for the 18 years of her life that she had to go to class before then?
Had to go to school. I'm not going to school today as a kindergartner.
I
have anxiety.
She, like, goes and hangs out in the bushes outside of
nap
school.
Nap time is too much for me right now.
I don't really like the goldfish snack that they give me, so I'm just, like, not going to come to class tomorrow.
I have to color in the lines.
Oh my god, that's too much. But I know that it's been a year, and it's been a hard year.
Yeah.
And I think that
year number 19 was a rough one for me.
Yeah. And I think that you've grown tremendously, and you're, like, stronger than you could have ever thought that you were. And I know I've told you this so many times, but you know too that God doesn't give you anything that you can't handle, and you've proven that. You've taken this horrible situation that shouldn't ever happen to anyone, and no one should ever have to go through that. But I think that you've handled it in the best possible way that you know how, and you have a tremendous amount of people that love you and care about you, and you have a very strong circle of people around you to love and support you. And for anyone out there that this has happened to, find someone who you trust and that loves you, because you sometimes, like, when you go through these hard times, it's very hard to think that someone else is going through something similar, and you just talking about it, like you've said, has, I think, made it so much easier on you. And it's just made it,
you've made it part of your story, but
but
not in a way where it's like
who I am.
Yeah, exactly. And I think,
but if there is anyone listening that is going through something that's like that, like, I strongly, strongly, strongly encourage you to to talk about it. Maybe if that's just like, if you just can't, I mean, also, this is hard for me to say because there's people out there that have like been awake and been sober while doing all of this. Like while having all the, not doing this, but having this stuff done to them. And I can only imagine how hard that is to talk about. But if you just have to start off by sitting in front of a mirror and looking yourself dead in the eye and telling yourself over and over and over and over and over again until you're able to tell somebody, then please, by all means, do that. And, like, don't feel guilty for taking the time that you need to come to terms with it. Because I did the same thing. It was a weird, complicated situation for me. Like, I didn't have all the answers, but I came to terms with it if that was the answer before I even knew. And then after that, I had a couple days to come to terms with it before I had to tell my parents. And so, like, I just encourage you to. And then to
tell someone that can be there, not to judge, not to say anything, as a matter of fact. Like, they can just be there to listen to you and to hug you and to be there as a support system.
Be that shoulder, like, to cry on, like, when you need it.
Another thing that's kind of helped me a lot is, like I said, I divert the sappy sadness all the time and just trying to change. Like, I live by positivity.
Changing your mindset.
Yes, changing your mindset. Okay, well, no, like, it's okay. That happened to me, and I'm gonna be stronger. So this is okay. I'm gonna still live my life. I'm alive today. Like, I could be dead right now.
And so, looking at the blessings that you have in your life and
leaning on your faith and your family and
I
all
love that
stuff.
so much that you, like, you're so, like, I'm just now accepting that.
It's a hard thing to even realize.
It's really hard to just, like, okay, like, I'm not going to let that shit affect me. Like, I'm just now starting to do that. So I'm very happy for you, Megan.
Thank you.
That's a big deal when you just, like, stop letting the world affect how you feel, because the world is not on your side.
At all.
Ever. And that's where life isn't fair comes into play.
But at the same time, as much as the world is not on your side, it 100% is.
It definitely can be if you put your mind in the right place.
In the right place.
Yes.
Because if you think, like, oh my gosh, financially, like, oh, like,
if you're just
why
negative,
is the world just getting me down? Like,
change your mindset.
No. I'm struggling financially right now, but at least I know not to do that next time. You know, like,
you have to learn to just, like, how you want to go forward. How am I going to be better for the future? You can't keep, dwindling in the past and keep rethinking those negative thoughts, and that's just not
it's not healthy.
It's not healthy, and it's not productive to your well-being, to your mind, to your body, to, the people around you. It just puts you in a very negative space. And so I applaud you so much on just having that mindset. And when you do have those negative thoughts, you quickly realize that and you turn them around. And not to say that you're going to have bad days and sad days, because that's,
we all have those.
that happens. But it's when you have those bad days and you choose to get up anyways and keep going. And you just have to keep moving forward. So on that note, we kind of talked about how you are now, and what is it like, trusting again and kind of putting yourself back out there, and I'm sure that's very difficult.
Well, I think that trusting, I have this fear of men now, which is understandable, but trusting them is like a whole nother, trusting them is hard, And it's scary. It scares the living crap out of me to, like, think, like, oh, if I'm going to be in a relationship, like, I have to trust a man. Like, and, like, that's why, and Erin has pushed me so hard in the past, like, just, like, in the past 24 hours.
In the last 24 hours.
Why? What do you mean?
Like, just with, like, the whole last night situation.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Pushed me really hard to, like, go out on dates. And, like, I'm only 20, so I'm like, you know, like, I have my time. Like, I don't want to, but, and also, not up until, like, I guess last night, I had never been taken out on a date. Ever.
Yeah.
My dinner has never been paid. I've always paid for mine and his dinner. I've always been the one to drive. I've never been, like, picked up or, like, I've always driven him to where we're going, and I've always paid for whatever we're eating, like, or whatever we're doing. Never been taken out on a date. So that is also kind of just, like, a whole different world for me.
Very refreshing.
Yeah.
And honestly, I can almost say the same. Like, I've been in a, I guess, dating slump since my ex and I broke up, like, about 2 years ago. Coming up, like, it's been about 2 years, and, like, I think I push you so hard because it, like, influences me to also be pushed hard too, and, like, why, like, what I'm missing out on things that could be great. If they're not great, then who cares? And, like, I told you, I was like, the worst thing that could happen is, like, we could be friends or even not be friends or whatever. But, like, I push you so hard because, like, I obviously want the best for you, and I want you to experience the things that you should experience and not let this, you know, one thing hold you back. And I think that, and not just that, but just, I want you to experience life, and I want you to have fun, and I want you to, you know, your 20s are a great part of your life, and being able to experience that and not giving two shits about what anybody else thinks, which I think that you're already there, is a great thing. Because when I was 20, and still to this day, like, judgment is a big thing. Like, I don't want people to fucking judge me. I don't want to be left out. And that's something that's, like, deep within me, and I, like, don't want you to ever feel like that. And so me pushing you to go on dates and go out, hang out with your friends is, like, me teaching you, like, something that I've learned already, that I need to be better, you know? And so, but honestly, like, when my ex and I were together, I mean, we were in college when we first met, so it was, like, I don't know. It was just, like, not the dating scene now. Like, it wasn't like he asked me on a date, he picked me up, all of that. Like, we met at a bar. I had to ask him if he wanted to hang out again. Like, it was not the thing that, the fairy tale, I guess. And it's so, dating is, like, weird to me.
It is weird.
I don't like it.
It's like you kind of put this pressure on yourself. It's like, oh, like, do I have, like, kind of, like, not force yourself, but, like, okay, do I have to like this person? Like,
yes.
Force conversation. Like, sometimes it's awkward. And
well, and I think, too, like, my recent push is because of a conversation that I had with Kelly, who is also another one of my best friends from college, and she's like, you just need to, like, do it. You just need to go, and, like, you won't know unless you do it, if they're gonna be the one, you know? It's like, you don't have to have, because I think my mindset was, like, if I go on a date with them, like, I'm gonna have to like them, like you said, like, I have to like them.
I think that's my mindset right now,
and
trying to figure that out is hard. What
Kelly was saying is, like, just go into it as this could be a good friend. And so, Daisy, stop. And so, like, I went on a date the other night, and it was great, you know, like, I would go on another date with him again, but I don't know if I like him, like, I don't know if I would date him, but,
like, you don't know him well enough yet,
right, either. And so, spending 2 hours with someone shouldn't determine if you're gonna date them or marry them, right, because ultimately, like I told you earlier today, like, I'm at the point in my life where I'm going to date someone that I'm going to see myself with. And, like, I'm not going to be dating someone that...
Like, oh, time
I'm not just going to be going on dates.
Months, yeah.
Like, that doesn't seem like I'm 28. And it's not like I want to get married tomorrow, but, like, eventually I do.
You want that lifelong partner.
Yeah. So, anyways, that's, like, why I push you so hard, just because, like, I've done my own mistakes, and I want you to, like, live your life to the fullest and not have any regrets and be my age and, you know, feel like you did what you wanted to do, you know? Mm-hmm. So, yeah. What do you think, Louisa?
I mean, I agree. I've been in therapy, like, these past couple of months in quarantine, and, like, I've learned to just, like, let the stuff in my past, like, not, like, stop to, like, not, I've never let it define who I am, but, like, stop letting it,
control you?
Not control me, but, like, hold me back, because it did hold me back. Like, I have a whole other issue with men. Mm-hmm. I can't trust them emotionally, and I'm working on that myself, and, you know, like, all that fun stuff. So I told Erin the other day, I was like, I'm not really, like, on the apps to, like, I'm not looking for it. Like, I swipe through it.
See,
I have a conversation.
I've always told Erin, like, we were on, like, we'll be on, like, Red River or something. Oh, Megan, like, that guy's cute. Like, go dance with him. And I'm like, no, Erin, this is my analogy that I've made up. And I
What's your analogy?
I've told you this. I always say, I'm done looking for the remote. And what I mean by that is whenever you're, like, looking for the TV remote and you just can't find it. And then you're like, you know what? Screw the remote. I'm just not going to look for it anymore. And then, like, a couple minutes later, you, like, find it in some random place. Like, I'm done looking for the remote. Well, that's what they say.
Like,
know?
They're like, when people are out there actively looking for love, you're going to find it in all the wrong places.
Yeah.
So that's what, like, I guess what I'm looking at. Like, I'll talk to guys if I go on dates. Like, I'm just going to treat it as, like, I'm meeting a new friendship. Yes, exactly. Yes. Like, I'm not putting pressure on myself. Like,
and that brings the anxiety level way fucking down. Like, it brings the anxiety level so down. A lot of it also has to do with, like, the conversation. Like, the conversations I used to have before, I always felt like, oh, like, I'm gonna have to potentially like this person, and, like, all this stuff. And, like, the conversations I'm having now is more of, like, I need to get to know you as a person. Yeah. And your likes, and we just have to get to know each other, and, like, that's it. So. And if I don't like you, it's okay. It's okay. And if you don't like me, I might just be bitter about it.
Fuck you too.
Yeah. I might be bitter about it for a second, but at the end of the day, it's okay. Like, we weren't meant to be. You can't be everyone's true love. Like, there's. Yeah.
Oh, it would be so nice.
I mean, everyone would probably love me if they met me, if they gave me the chance. But there's just no way.
There's not enough.
There's 7 billion around. Cut myself up into 7 billion pieces, and everyone's gonna have some.
You get a piece, and you get a piece.
Everyone's a winner. You're a winner.
Start breaking the crown.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that's it would be a good place to. My shoulders just popped. I don't know.
Oh
if
my
you
God, was that your back?
We didn't even talk about the date from last night.
Do you want to talk about it? We can talk about it.
Let's talk about it. Yeah. Let's compare the dates.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Comparison.
Pause. So Megan told me that was supposed to be going on this date. So she's saying, like, I'm pushing her. She's supposed to go on this date. She told me, like, on Wednesday or Thursday, like, oh, I have a date on
Saturday.
Oh, it was on Wednesday when I went on my date. We were talking about
Yes.
So we were talking about it. You were like, I have a date on Saturday, or was supposed to. He hasn't really told me anything. I was like, you should go. You should totally go. And so then
I said I might just bail.
Yeah. So I'm like, no, don't do that. Like, you should go. All this stuff that we've already talked about for the reasons why. And so on Saturday comes around, or Friday night when you come over, she's like, oh, well, this other guy has been texting me too, and, like, he asked me to hang out. And so I was like, oh, like, well, have you heard from this other guy? Blah, blah, blah.
Which he was on a business trip.
So I was like, okay, give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he was actually working for some money. So that's, we support that.
Like money. Working for some money.
We support that. So then date 1 texts her in the morning. Saying,
no. Date
2 texts you in the morning and says, hey, you want to hang out?
Wait, how are you doing that? Are you doing that, like, are you saying, like, date 1 is the first person that I was supposed to be going on the date with? Or date...
I don't know. Why don't you tell the story?
Date 1 should be the first person you went on a date with.
Okay, so
night.
then continue.
Yeah.
Date 1 went on, texted me in the morning.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Date 1 texted her in the morning, said, hey, you want to hang out? And,
I was just like, oh, kind of, maybe.
Like I haven't heard, well, obviously you didn't tell the guy this, but, like, you hadn't heard from the...
I just said, like, I might be doing something.
You're, like, in the background, you're like, I have another potential.
Yeah. Well, and so then this other guy texted her and was like, hey, let's go to dinner, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, you should go on both. Like, you should go on both dates. Just go to an early dinner and then go to a late dinner. And so I guess they go get snow cones on date 1, and... Which I'm like,
why don't you tell us the story?
That would be a fucking...
But
okay, but anybody that wants to take me on a date, I would love to go to Bahama Bucks for a date. I'm just going to put that out there.
Yeah, it is a good idea.
It is a good idea, especially for a date
once
number
again,
1.
that was my idea.
Good idea.
Tell us the story.
So he was like all day. He was very consistent, which was really good.
Mm-hmm.
And on his profile, it says that he's 5'8", which I'm a very height person. I'm 5'2", and I like the person to be significantly taller than I am.
5'2" and 5'8" are good numbers, though.
They're not bad. So
Could be better.
Could be better.
Could be better.
I mean, I only date 6 foot and above, so.
That's me.
You're 5'7", though. She's 5'2". That's a 5-inch difference.
True.
But he was like, let's get there at, I don't know, I think it was like 6. I'm like, okay. So I'm like rushing to get ready. And I get there at 6, and he's like, oh, well, there's like a wreck on the highway, so let's meet at like 6:30. I was like, okay, that's fine. So I ran home to get my car charger because it was literally the road over. Like, I literally live on the street right next to Bahama Bucks. And I run home, and I kind of chill for a second, and then I go back, and he was there. And then he pulls up next to me, and he was like, let me just get in your car real quick. And I was like, okay, because we thought Bahama Bucks would be like the out, like you could go inside, order, and then sit on the patio, but it was completely closed. Like, they had everything closed off. So only the drive-thru was open, which he was like, well, let me just get in your car. And I was like, okay. So then he gets in my car, and we go through the drive-thru. We both order smoothies, and we pull up to the window, and he, like, didn't pull his card out. So, like, I'm not going to just sit here and look dumb. So I pulled my card out, and I pay, and he was like, well, do you want me to just cash up you? I was like, you can. So then...
For the entire amount, sir.
So then he, like, cash apps me $5.25, which it was $10.50. So he cash apped me, like, exactly half.
Right.
Like,
so
$5.25 missing, sir.
Yeah.
You requested $5.25 right after.
So then I was just like, whatever. And then he was like, well, what are we going to do after this? And I was like, I don't know. So, Erin, you're going to get really mad about me about this.
So he was like, well, what do I'm like, you need to tell him that you have plans at 8. Like,
okay, yeah.
You can't stay there longer because you were going to have this second date. I was like, she was like, well, what am I supposed to say? And I was like, I don't know. Tell her.
Oh, and he questioned me a lot about that. Continue.
Wow. Like, nosy?
Yes.
Like,
red
I have
flags
plans.
all over the place.
Yeah, it's like, I have plans. Stop asking me questions. But I told her, I was like, just tell him that you have a friend of a friend's birthday party.
I told him that we were friends in high school, but, like, now we're not really friends. But, like, she invited me to her birthday, and I told her that I would go, but, like, we're not really friends anymore, but we are because we were friends in high school. He was like, so then why are you going? I was like,
yeah, Megan, you should have just been like, my good friend from high school is having a birthday party. That's it. Because, like...
But I had also told him that, like earlier in the day, I had told him, because I hadn't heard back from the other guy, I had also told him, like, no, I don't have any plans. I'm just going to go home and chill, like, So I couldn't be like, oh, my best friend from high school is having a
Well, that's
problem.
why
best friend. That's why you just say like, oh, like
an
my good friend
acquaintance.
from back in high school, and just be like, I haven't
Or-
seen her because she's been in college. Like,
Well, I
that's it.
didn't, so.
Well, now
but
you
it
know.
still worked out.
Now you know you have a couple of stories in the back pocket. In your back pocket.
But then he was like, Erin, you're going to be so mad at me.
What'd you do?
I didn't do anything. So then he was like, well,
I think
So-
you told me this and I got mad at you.
yeah, you got mad at
Yeah.
me.
Oh, Lord.
So then he was like, well, there's an elementary school right there, which is the elementary school that I went to. He was like, let's just go to the playground.
It gets worse.
And let's just,
Did
like,
you smoke
chill.
weed?
Hell no.
Okay.
No,
Hell
it's not that.
Okay.
Keep going.
And then, so then we pull up to, like, where the playground is, and there's, like, a little girl playing with her dad, and he was like, let's dip. And I was like, okay, where are we gonna go?
You went back to his house?
No. Hell no.
Okay, finish the story. I'll stop asking questions.
So then, we went to the lake, and we, like, walked the shores. Yeah.
By yourself?
Yes, that's what I told her.
There was, like, a lot of people there, though, and then once it, like, cleared out, and once it's, like, once it started getting dark, I was, like, it was, like, 7:30, I was like, oh, I have to go, I'm sorry, and I didn't have to be there until 8, so.
If you're gonna be doing that shit, you need to buy a gun or
I
buy
know.
Have
a
you
freaking
not watched
taser.
Ted Bundy stole 2 women in a crowded lake?
Beach area?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, shit, I didn't
So-
know that.
You need to watch the Ted
Yes.
Bundy tapes. Because this, Luisa and I, and we've done some questionable things that we're not proud of
really
and
have.
that we're not going to talk about right now. But we can tell you later. But we're not, like, we watch those shows, one, for entertainment, two,
to learn
learn
men.
What not to do.
what not to do. And seriously, like, Luisa and I have had these conversations, like, I'll go and I'll be getting gas, and, like, I don't know, the windows were down or something. There was one time
There was one time Erin went to go get gas, and we both have.
I left the car on, so, like I did with you, she was...
Oh, she was in the car? I thought you just
I was in the car.
walked out of the
No,
car.
but we both
Well,
have
I left her
like
my
key,
purse and
start,
keys and
whatever they're.
I didn't leave the car on while I was getting gas.
No, you turned it off.
No,
but
I
you
thought
rolled the
you
windows
you
down.
went inside and Luisa wasn't in the car. You just got out of the
No,
car
no,
and
no,
went
no,
inside.
No, so she pulls up to our, gas station, whatever, and turns off the car because safety.
I
And
don't wanna
rolls
blow
down the
up.
window because it's hot. And Erin goes inside to go pay to get gas. And my thought process just goes
Luisa's
through, like...
just in the car with my keys, and,
my
they're
thought
in there.
so my thought process is, like, someone could just...
Get
there's a bunch
in,
of homeless
press the
people-
button, and
Yeah,
drive off.
leave. So then I told Erin, I was like, when things like that happen, like, we should just... I was like, I was going to throw your bag out the window.
yeah, I was like, do it.
Literally.
Yeah. But, so, it's like, we think about stuff like that.
But anyways, back to this date.
So how did this date end? Was it good or bad?
It was awful.
Okay.
It was bad. And he was like,
He cash-strapped her for the
I
snow
know.
cone.
no. And
Took
then,
her to the
and then he
woods.
was like, let's go.
Let's go to the park at your old elementary school.
Yeah,
It's
really.
freaky.
And then he was like,
Also, it doesn't seem like he really had a plan for the evening, which is a
he
red
didn't.
flag.
Exactly. It was all like, what do you want to do? Yeah. And I hate that. Like, just tell me.
You need a man with a plan.
Yeah, exactly.
We're both
And
indecisive,
so-
Megan.
Yeah.
I hate when they're like, what do you want to do next? It's like,
No, say, hey, like, would you like to go to dinner with me at Razoo's? Like, meet me at this location.
Or
Or
just give me
have-
options.
have-
Give me 3 options, and I will pick one of them.
No, I don't even like that. You
I
tell
would-
me where we're eating. I'm not picky, whatever. Like, tell me.
Oh my god, Megan, you and I are the same person.
Yeah.
Yeah, these bitches, we went to Wendy's today, and I'm like, oh, I know what I'm going to get.
Megan's like, what am I getting? I was like, I don't even know what I'm
I
getting.
know. They're both looking at me. I'm like, I'm going to get the spicy chicken nuggets, and I know what I want to drink and all this stuff. And then they both look at me, and they're like, should I get the chicken nuggets or the hamburger? And I'm like, I don't fucking care. You guys decide what you want by yourselves.
But,
And I'm not even exaggerating. That's literally how it went
That's
down.
literally what happened.
so then I'm, like, trying to kind of, like, leave. And he was like, let's get in the backseat of your car. And I was like,
Ew.
no. I was like, you are tripping. And so then he gets in my, like, so then he was like, let's just listen to music, whatever. So then he tells me that he makes music. And I was like, oh, what kind of music do you make?
Lame.
And he shows
That's
me.
not lame.
It was like hip hop music. And him singing, he was like, you're so what?
Oh,
I was like,
gross.
no. Oh my gosh. So then I was like,
"Get
okay,
out of
like
my
I
car
have to
now."
go. So then he walks around, and I kind of just sat in the car, and he opened the door, and he like hugged me, and then he held my face in front. I said, "Don't kiss me," and he was like, "I'm not going to," and I said, "Yeah, don't kiss me," and he was like, "I'm not going to."
You should have just locked the door and then
I would
slowly reverse. Be like, bye. Okay, so
yeah.
bye.
So he was not good.
Okay,
and
let's
then,
talk about date number 2.
So then I'm like on the way to date number 2, which date number 2 had like he was getting his
A
haircut,
haircut, which is weird at 8:00 on a Saturday night.
Well, okay. Also, he
Did
he drove all that day because he was on a business trip. So he was driving. So then he like.
Okay.
Anyways, it's also.
You might have gone to the barber, and they do like.
Okay,
face-
I don't
okay.
care. It's fucking weird to
I already give him
go
the benefit of the doubt.
go on Sunday morning, 8:00 at night for a haircut. It's too
He
late.
had to go to church in the morning.
Okay,
He's
whatever.
a well-rounded man.
Okay, go.
So he had to get a haircut. So he was like, meet me at 9. He was like, what do you want to eat? And I was like, no, I don't like to make decisions, so that's on you. And he was like, okay, hibachi. And I was like, ugh, hibachi's a little too much. Like, I always go into dates as if like
You're gonna pay.
I'm gonna pay me and you're gonna pay
yeah.
you until they say something like, no, I'm paying for it, or like they take the kind of thing.
I have a comment about that. Yeah, go ahead.
And I was like,
Make your
I don't
comment.
really have the hibachi budget. And he was like, no, I'm taking you to dinner.
Yeah, Megan, we
That's
talked
what a
about
date
this
is.
last
Like I
night.
said, I've never
we
really
talked
been on a
about
date.
this last night. So this is because I used to be the same
Yeah.
way. Like I used to like always just like okay, like I'm ready to pay for myself. And until my mom told me, my mom got mad at me. She was like, no, if he asks you out to dinner or wherever, he pays. Unless you are like, hey, let's go to the drive-in or put or whatever. That's when you can.
If you ask him to like hang out and go on a date, like then
I would
you
pay.
should offer to pay, and then if he offers to pay, you accept because
yeah,
that's just gentlemanlike
Yeah.
for him to do that.
But like,
So
like, you to like pay most of the dates? No.
No. Okay,
Yeah.
so that you went to actually before that. He was at his haircut, and we were at Brittany's house.
Oh yeah.
And so
okay, yeah. So
she
I was
called
getting
me.
there with this haircut thing. So the plan was to go to the hibachi grill in Flower Mound, and he said 9, but then he ended up pushing it up to 8:45 because I guess his haircut didn't last as long.
No, you did not. You did not. Did you just do what I think you did? Did you fart? Louisa tooted. Oh my god.
Sorry.
Okay, anyway, so he pushed the date up to 8:45. Oh god.
Okay, moving past.
So he pushed the date up to
Move it away.
8:45. And I left.
Okay.
I left the first date at 7:30, so I had like an hour and a half. Well, Erin was at her friend's house, like drinking, like whatever, like literally.
We were watching the Alabama A&M game, and
Erin and
Alabama.
Louisa were both there, and I was like passing, and I called her to let her know how like the first date went, and then I was like, well, I'm passing Brittany's house, and then I like stopped, and we played flip cup, and like I took a shot, and then I left and went on my second date, and like I pulled up and I saw this car kind of sitting off to the side, and it was him, but I didn't want to like act like I knew it was him, so I just parked, and he was like, I was like, I'm here, and he was like, are you in this car? And I was like, yeah, and I was like, I'm just gonna get out and go inside. So then I'm like, I get out and I'm like walking, and I see his car. He's parking right next to me, but I'm just pretending like I don't see him.
You're like la 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 la.
Yeah.
And you're like out of the corner of your eye, you're like looking.
Yes. And so
And then
then
he comes up, hey, and you're like, oh my god.
I didn't even see you there.
I didn't even see you. You parked next to my car?
So then I was like, then he rolls down his window and he was like, hey, wait. And I was like, oh, okay. Which at this point, like, the alcohol is like hitting me. I'm tipsy. So I'm like, oh my gosh, like, hey, like, I'll wait, whatever. So then I go up to the sidewalk and I'm waiting. And he comes up and we walk in, and he's older, so he can drink. So he like orders a drink or whatever. And we were just like talking, and the conversation was good. It was like
Natural.
yeah, just like natural or whatever. We were like joking around. It wasn't like we were like obviously
it wasn't awkward.
Yeah, it wasn't. And then he was like, well, I really don't know about like around the city or whatever. And I was like, well, I don't really want to go drive with you, but like, you know, like
did you go drive with this person?
No, I didn't.
Okay, I was gonna be like, bad decision number 2.
But we walked outside and his car was out there. Okay, so you know how I told you how I like the like solid colors? Mm-hmm. His car is a Lexus, and it's a solid gray with red and black interior. And it's brand new, and I was like, dang, nice car. He was like, thanks. So then we were talking about like music inside, and he was like, yeah, I kind of listen to country music. I was like, I'm going to test you. So we went outside, and I played country music, and then we just did that. And then I was like, okay, well, I'm going to go home. And he was like, yeah, I'm going to go home too. And then while we were talking about country music, I was like, have you ever been to Red River? And he was like, yeah. I was like, have you ever been to Electric Cowboy? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, oh my gosh. Or he said, no, he had never been to Electric Cowboy. And I was like, oh my gosh. So he was like, is that like the spot here? And I was like, yeah. And it's like right in Louisville. And he was like, so when are we going? And I was like, let's go next weekend. And he was like, okay, bet. And so then we said bye, and I left.
So that's a sign of a good date that you like set another date.
Yeah.
I just felt like everything was just natural and...
Yeah.
And he, like, texted me and was like, did you make it home safe?
Oh, that's so sweet.
And, yeah. I'm gonna cry. So
That's a good quality in guys that, like, I've only dated, like, 2 guys this last year that would be like, text me home when you get home.
Yeah.
What'd you...
Text me when you get home.
What'd you say?
Text me when you get home. I don't know what I said.
Home, text me now. Like, me, Louisa. Oh. You text Louisa when you get home. That was my caveman impression. So, I think we went over a lot in this episode. It's very like heavy on the heart, also lighthearted and happy, and I think we've kind of like made it full circle. But I want to thank you for coming on and sharing your story. And I know that I don't think that we have like a super ton of listeners, but like hopefully eventually we will. Fingers crossed. So if you hear this story and you're touched by it, like share it with someone that you might feel could get something out of it. And I mean, you don't even have to have gone through, you know, what Megan has gone through, but like,
just, I think it's awareness. It is. I think hearing someone, like, okay, so there was a girl that posted on Twitter and she had a similar situation, and her case actually got justice. Like, he's actually in jail now, and she posted about it, and it was just like, wow. Yeah. So, like, hearing someone else's story and hearing somebody else share about it, I think it gives girls, like, more power.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, just if it's, like, if it touches, not home, but just, like, touches you your heart, way, like, share it. Because it's going to help a lot of people, I feel like. I hope so.
Mm-hmm. And you're very brave for coming on and sharing that story. And you know that we love you very much and are always here for you with anything that you're going through. And, like, you know, I'd punch someone in the face if you wanted me to. So, yeah. And then, you know, so I'm just glad that you were able to come on here, and, you know, I feel like it's kind of like a weight off your shoulders too, you know, and your help, like, this will help a lot of other people. Yeah. So, on that note, thank you for coming on. We'll have to have we're gonna have to have you come on again.
Yeah. Yes.
Soon. Fun. It is fun, isn't it?
Soon.
See, isn't it fun? I told you it would be fine.
Fun.
I said fine.
But I said fun.
Whatever, yeah.
Both. It's fine and fun. Both. Okay, on that note, let's cheers and
sign off.
We'll see you next time.